The plum pudding. In the 19th century, French poet Émile Duchamp met an Englishman called Mr. Forgeboom, who introduced Duchamp the plum pudding, which he had never eaten before. About 10 years later, Duchamp saw plum pudding on a restaurant menu and decided to order one. Unfortunately, the waiter advised him that it had sold the last plum pudding to a man at the back of the restaurant, but that the customer, Monsieur de Forgeboom, might be prepared to share it. Another 10 years had passed, where Duchamp was dining at a friend's house, where she announced the plum pudding is to be served. He wondered out aloud if this would occasion another meeting with Mr. Forgeboom. Just then, the doorbell rang, and de Forgeboom's name is announced. It turns out the hostess isn't even expecting him. De Forgeboom was to dine at another house that night and had rang the wrong doorbell. Meteorite strikes Parisian roof. An egg-sized meteorite, believed to be about 4.57 billion years old, smashed through the roof of a family home on the outskirts of Paris and remained buried in the roof insulation. One day they noticed that the roof was leaking and called out a roofer to fix it. The roofer said that whatever had broken their roof tile must have come from the sky, as a person would have to be very strong to break a tile in this way, he said. The family had no idea that what had landed on their roof was an 88-gram meteorite. The owner of the property was curious to know more about the egg-shaped rock and contacted scientist Alain Carillon, a mineral expert who claimed that it was an exceptional discovery and was extremely rare. He said that only 50 or so meteorites have fallen in France over 4 centuries, and we have never found anything like it within an 80-kilometre radius of Paris before. Carillon said the meteorite was a piece of chondrite that had come from the belt of asteroids between Mars and Jupiter, where most meteorites recovered on Earth are chondrites. They were formed when dust and small grains present in the early solar system created primitive asteroids. Chondrite meteors include dust believed to predate the formation of our solar system and have come from elsewhere in the galaxy. Although the odds of that meteorite hitting their roof is rarer than winning the lottery, when you consider that it has been flying around the universe for billions of years. And this is where the amazing coincidence gets strange. The name of the family whose roof this meteorite struck was called Comet, and the Comet family are now the proud owners of their own extremely rare extraterrestrial rock. Dollar bill. One day Paul Gratchen was at a Chicago delicatessen grabbing a bite to eat, and as he was about to hand over his cash, he noticed a name on the dollar bill. Written in pencil was the name Esther. Most people would overlook the writing and just hand over the note and think nothing of it. Except for Paul, this appeared to be a very strange coincidence because he had recently been dating a woman and was considering stepping up their relationship by asking if she wanted to make it permanent. Her name was Esther. Paul quickly stuck the note back into his pocket and decided he would surprise Esther by having the bill mounted on a frame, and called it the Immaculate Dollar of Arlington Heights, and would present it to her at the next romantic night out. After they finished eating, he decided to finish the evening on a high by handing over this special gift. After she eagerly unwrapped her present, Paul did not get the reaction he expected. Esther just looked at the bill and stared at it, then looked up at Paul and appeared to be shocked and confused. She then quickly put the gift away and said to him, "Let's talk about it later." 2 years had passed before they discussed the framed bill again. However, after that night, their relationship blossomed, and a year later, Paul proposed to Esther. After they married and were in the process of moving apartments, Paul found the dollar bill and was surprised she had kept it. It was at this point that he remembered what Esther had said to him after she had placed the gift in a bag, that she would discuss it at a later date. He approached her with the dollar bill where she was now ready to tell her strange story. When she was 19, she was in an unhappy relationship and figured she would never find love. It was at this stage that she decided to put her fate in God's hands by writing her name Esther on $10 bills. She then said a prayer and that one of the bills would end up with the man she'd find love with. So when Paul showed her the framed dollar bill after the romantic dinner, Esther knew that Paul was the very special person in her life. She said she'd acted strange that evening because she knew her prayers had been answered and she'd found her soulmate. But she'd acted weird because she didn't want to frighten him by telling him the truth. Because of the dollar bill, she feels tied to Paul and have now been married for 19 years and have 3 children. The frame containing the dollar bill now sits on the dresser, where Esther looks at it every day that she wakes up and figures she hit the $1 jackpot. The gold balloon. In 2001, a farmer called Andy Rivers of Milton Lilbourne in Wiltshire, UK, was checking on his cows in the field and found a balloon that was stuck in a hedge. As he freed the balloon, he noticed there was a tag attached to it with writing that said "Happy 50th birthday" and had a label on it with the name Laura Buxton and an address near Staffordshire. It just so happened that his neighbours had the same surname, Peter and Eleanor Buxton, who had a daughter called Laura, and figured it must be for her, and delivered the balloon to the Buxton family. Unbeknownst to the farmer, he was delivering the balloon to the wrong Buxton family. This incident was the start of a series of coincidences involving 2 girls who live a 3-hour drive away from each other and were not related. To find out how this unusual series of coincidences began, we have to go to another 10-year-old girl named Laura Buxton from Staffordshire, UK, who released the balloon with the name and address on it. At the time, she was attending her grandparents' 50th wedding anniversary celebration. Her grandfather had set up some helium balloons for the festivities and handed one of the balloons to Laura. She decided to write out a message with the instructions, "Please return to Laura Buxton," along with her address, attached it to a gold-coloured balloon and then released it. It was a windy day, which meant it would travel far. The wind took the balloon 140 miles to Milton Lilbourne in Wiltshire, where it landed on a hedge in the farmer's field. When the wrong Laura Buxton read the note on the balloon, she decided to respond to the instructions that read, "Please write to Laura Buxton." After writing to Laura and after only a short time later, she received a call from the other Laura. And after a few minutes talking to her, they found they had striking similarities. They were the same age and were both in grade 5. But it gets even weirder. They both have 3-year-old female black Labrador dogs and also have a grey rabbit and a guinea pig each. The girls then decided to meet up, and on the day of their meeting, both girls were wearing a pink sweater and jeans. They were the same height, which was unusual because they were both tall for their age. They both had brown hair and wore it in the same style. They even brought their guinea pigs to the meeting, which were the same colour with orange markings on their back. It was as if the 2 Laura Buxtons were the same person. Today, both girls are good friends and regularly meet up. They have no idea why it happened, but it resulted in a great friendship and an even greater coincidence.